Hey bosses, Ella here, and today I just wanted to do a short episode about something that is kind of like the unspoken downside, or one of the unspoken downsides of what happens when you are on your journey to success. And it's not necessarily a downside so much as it is like a reality of this happens, and it's not always very pleasant. It's part of the journey. And what that is when you are making big changes in your life, when you're making big changes and when you are up leveling personally, the unfortunate truth is that not everybody in your life is going to up level with you. Now, before I get into some examples, I want to be really clear about what I mean by up leveling. So up leveling to me is when you are up leveling yourself, like you're becoming your better person than you were before. It's not like you're up leveling in competition to other people or that you're becoming better than them in some way. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's when you are improving yourself compared to yourself before. Okay. And so you are making changes in yourself, and not everybody's going to be on board or happy about those changes that you're making. And so it's not about being better than anybody else. Like, I'm up leveling and you aren't. It's not like that. It's just the reality of when you start bettering yourself, not everybody's going to want to be bettering themselves at the same place or on that journey with you. It just happens. I want to talk about what that can look like, give you a few examples of how it's happened to me and maybe some other people, and then what you can do, when it happens. And this is something personal to me right now because it's something that's been happening a little bit in Author Like a Boss. There have been some changes made for those of you who have had more intimate interactions and relationships and know a little bit about what's happening. There have been some changes that have been difficult. So what do I mean when I'm talking about up leveling? I mean, I don't mean comparing to other people, but I do mean, like, what can it look like? And so up leveling in yourself can be like making a commitment and sticking to it. So maybe you would make a commitment to your writing, or maybe you can make a commitment to going to the gym, and then you stick to it. And so people start seeing the changes that come from you making that commitment and sticking to it. Sometimes up leveling looks like just changing directions. Okay, so you're like, well, I was going in this direction and doing this consistently, and now I'm doing something slightly different. And the people in your life have to adjust to the change in your direction. And sometimes it just means that you're doing something new. Like, you're like, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. Or maybe you aren't even stopping doing anything. You're just like, I'm adding this to my life, and that might make people uncomfortable depending on what it is. The thing is, we all get comfortable with things as they are familiar. Like everybody does, you and me and everybody. We all get comfortable with what's familiar. And so when you make changes, you are upsetting that comfort for the other people in your life, for anybody whose life that you touch. When you start making changes or doing something different for your own growth, for your own up-leveling, for your own self and love, you start changing the comfort level. You start interrupting other people's familiarity and comfort level. And they don't always like that. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because what you're doing is upsetting their own balance. What you're doing is making them have to see, oh, this isn't comfortable right now. And therefore, they want to do something to make sure that they keep their own comfort and familiarity stable and secure. Now, I want to tell you a couple stories about some up-leveling and the way that it showed up in my own life. And here's the thing, like, I have had to up-level. I've had to improve myself and be better. Didn't have to, but if I didn't, then I could have, I'd probably be like homeless and some person on the street, because I didn't start out at a place where I would want to stay. I wanted to have a happy, enjoyable life. So I had to up level. Otherwise, I'd have been, drinking a lot or something. Not that I don't drink on occasion, but you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't up leveled purposefully and deliberately, like improved myself and learned more and become a better person for myself. So, but I did move around a lot growing up. So some of the consequences of up leveling I never really saw because I moved around so much. It was typical to leave people behind because they weren't moving with me, like literally moving with me. But as I got older, I remember when I first moved to the Bay Area and I didn't know anybody because I had kind of like picked a spot on the map to live, one that was between my sister and my mom. It was a kind of equidistance between them. So I was like, aha, San Jose. Okay. So when I first moved there, I didn't know anybody. And I was like, okay, how am I going to meet people? And I signed up for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society team in training because I'd done that before. And what that is you train for a marathon or a half marathon, and you fundraise for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society while you're doing it. And in return, they provide you with professional runners to train you so that you do it well and you don't injure yourself or get hurt. And they cheerlead you, and it's a whole team of people doing it. It's really great. And I had done that before, and I was like, hey, this is a good way to meet people. So I met this woman, Kate, and we became really good friends. She invited me to join into her friend group. Okay. And like this, she and her friends are the ones who introduced me to Star Trek. Like I knew Star Trek existed, but I hadn't ever watched it very much. And I was living in the Silicon Valley. And so there were Trekkie references made all the time. I had no idea what anyone was talking about. So we became really good friends. And this whole group of us, eventually, at one point, we were doing a potluck. We'd rotate, no, not potluck. Each week we would rotate to somebody else's home, and that person would make dinner for everybody who was coming. And then we'd watch 1 or 2 episodes of Star Trek, The Next Generation specifically. And so we did that for like a year and a half, and we weren't even able to watch all the episodes, like the ones who were in the no voted, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Anyways, long story. So eventually we finished, TNG. We started doing other things as a group. And about the time as we started doing other things is when I had found out about Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing. And I joined a Thai kickboxing. I joined a Muay Thai gym in the area, and I fell in love with it. Like I was like, oh, this is where I finally get to be my best, truest self, because I am kicking butt. Literally, and I'm becoming super strong, like a superhero, like an undercover, because then I'd go out in the day and I'd still look like a bubbly, giggly woman, but I was underneath a secret badass because I could kick people's butts. Okay. So as I'm discovering this Muay Thai, making new friends, loving it, this other group with Kate was shifting, and they were starting to do something like some kind of alcohol mixer nights where now part of the group of friends didn't drink at all, but they were having fun making alcoholic drinks for other people, like making mixes, and then everybody'd vote on them. Some people would make them, other people would vote. And I really didn't have any interest in this. So I just kind of stopped going to some of the things because I was like, that's not what I really want to spend time doing. And that's happened at the same time as the Muay Thai, which I loved doing and was like bringing more and more into my life. And this was a really close friendship that I'd had with Kate. Like I was in her wedding, and I was one of only just a handful of bridesmaids who was in her wedding. And so it was a really close friendship to suddenly start growing apart. And when it did end, it wasn't smooth or pretty or nice in any way. It ended like very abruptly and very uncomfortably, and I felt bad about it for years. because I didn't know how to fix it when I was making these changes and becoming this other person who enjoyed these other things that they were not interested in at all. And that brings me to this point of when you're making these changes, it hurts. And it's awkward and it's sad. I was talking to my friend this weekend, one of my friends this weekend, and he was sharing with me how he had a group of friends that he was supposed to have plans with, and he could tell like that they kept rescheduling because he was their plan B. Okay, he was their plan B. They had a plan A, and the plan A wasn't working out very smoothly, and so they kept putting him off throughout the weekend, putting off his plans because they were hoping for plan A to come through. And of course he's hurt because he's like, well, he doesn't want to be anybody's plan B. And so I'm talking to him and I'm like, well, he's been doing a lot of personal work. He's been doing a lot of work and changing his energy and up-leveling and becoming this different person than he's been before, because he's so much more positive and engaging, and he's always been amazing, but now he's believing that he's amazing. And so there's this the energy of his previous friends and himself are not matching anymore, and so they're putting him as plan B. And for me, and for probably you looking in, you want to be like, well, just, those aren't your friends, ditch them. But it's not as easy as that all the time. It's not as easy to be like, well, because you might still really like them, or you might have all this history, or you might have these relationships that are hard to say no to. And that's why now I'm going to share with you some of the things you can do. Like, you're like, what is all this yuckiness? How do I deal with it? I'm going to share with you some of the things that you can do to get yourself through it as easily, with as much kindness and love and appreciation for yourself and those people in your life, whether they are staying with you on your journey or not. But first, this has been a little bit of a deep episode so far, and not super duper happy, which, that's part of why I'm talking about it, is because not everything on the journey is happy. But I want to add a little levity by singing for you, because I know everybody loves my singing and I love to sing. So here's my cheesy song that I felt really went with this episode. Sandy, can't you see I'm in misery? Why, oh, Sandy. Tell me sometimes you don't feel stranded at the drive-in and branded a fool when you are going through some of these changes with the people and these adjustments in your relationships in your life. I'm sorry about that, you guys, but not too sorry. Nope. Sorry, not sorry. Love me some whiny John Travolta. Okay. So here are some of the things that you can do. Here are some of the things that you can do, should do, choose what works for you when you are going through these kind of changes and adjustments with the people in your life, and you're noticing like, hey, this isn't working, or maybe it's just happened and you just had to let someone go. Okay, first, recognize it's okay to mourn. Okay, it is sad. It's sad sometimes when someone that you've loved or you've had a stronger relationship with and it changes, and maybe it's not that same relationship anymore. Maybe it's not serving you, or maybe they've done something, in response to your commitment to yourself or your writing. Maybe they've done something and it's a deal breaker, and you have to, be like, oh, this is sad. This relationship isn't working for me. It's okay to be sad about that. It's okay to mourn for a while and be like, yes, this isn't just a change. It's something to be sad about. It's the death of a relationship in whatever form it was originally. It might shift forms, but it's the death of that form of that relationship. So it's okay to be sad about it. The other thing to do is to not take it personally. Okay, so like I said earlier, when you are up leveling, when you are changing your vibration, changing your energy, or just changing the way that you're interacting in the world and with the people around you, like I said, it makes their boats, uncomfortable. It makes them lose balance. So when they react to you, it's not necessarily because they don't believe in what you're doing, even though they might say that. It doesn't necessarily have to do with you and what you're doing. It has to do with their own boat being out of balance, or it has to do with their own, I don't have very good analogies for this, but they've been familiar, they've been comfortable, and now you are doing something and it's making them uncomfortable. But whatever they're doing in response is not because of you, it's because of their own discomfort. So you don't need to take it personally. You don't have to be like, well, they did that to me. Well, they maybe did do it to you, but it's not because of you. It's because of themselves and their own discomfort. And you can see that because not everybody in your life will be doing crazy stuff. Some people will be cheering you on because they are so happy for you. So that's how you know that it's not about you when people attack you or, do something negative in response to your transformation. That brings me to the next thing that you can do is to really appreciate the people who grow with you. Really appreciate the people who are like, yeah, I see what you're doing and I love those changes and I'm here to support you. Like those people are gold. Those are your family, chosen family for the win. They're amazing, and really put your time, attention, and focus on those people, because it can be really easy to put all your energy onto the one or two people who however many people are not on your side. And one thing to do to kind of mitigate that sadness is to focus on those people who are there with you and really deliberately appreciate them, whether it's to their face or just in a journal or what have you. The other thing to do is to allow yourself to prioritize yourself and your goals. It's okay. It's okay for you to put yourself first. And because a lot of times what happens is you make this commitment to yourself, it rocks other people's boats, and then they respond in some way that, maybe they respond by being like, you can't do that. And because it's somebody that you've loved and trusted, it can stop you. It can stop you when they say that, because you're like, oh, I don't want to keep rocking the boat. I don't want to make this person who I love and trust uncomfortable. I don't want to make them unhappy in some way. And no, no, like I was saying about the personally, that means that you are not responsible for their actions, and you need to prioritize yourself and your goals. Like, you deserve to be your best self. You deserve to put yourself first. And that sometimes means setting boundaries, especially with those people who are not comfortable with your changes and want to bring you down. So reiterate and recommit to yourself and your goals, and allow yourself to prioritize what is important to you. Now, so far these tips have been in regards to kind of private, more personal growth and changes in relationships. But now I want to address what to do when maybe the relationship change is a little bit more public or professional. Okay, because sometimes it's not just your inner circle. Sometimes it's somebody and it affects, it affects your life in a way that not just you and your family and close friends see it, but everybody sees it. Yay. Yay, not yay. Okay. So, in these situations, here are my tips. And this is, you guys, you'll see a lot of, I know there can be a lot of indie author drama where people are calling each other out, just kind of crap. And so in these kind of situations, if you want to stay out of that kind of drama, here are some of my tips. If you're having a professional change and anger and enmity, like if you're not enmity, did I say, I think I'm using that right. But if it's not a friendly, breakup, let's say, I highly recommend waiting 24 to 48 hours before doing anything or making any kind of decisions. Just during those 24 to 48 hours, write in your journal, meditate, whatever it is to release, maybe punch something if you happen to do kickboxing, talk to a really trusted friend who can maybe give you some perspective and let you vent to them until you can get your perspective. Just wait and cool down a little bit because you don't want to do or say something that you'll regret. Okay. You don't want to do or say something that you'll regret. We've all done that before in the middle of a fight with somebody that we love. And then the thing is, you can't take back. There's no take backs when you say something like that, when you do something hurtful, or maybe you're not doing anything hurtful, but I just say, wait, because in those first 24 to 48 hours, when you're really angry, you're not coming from your best self. So it's best to just hold it, hold it inside, at least publicly. Maybe go punch something, punch your pillow, do whatever your thing is to release some of that angry energy so that you can get a good perspective. Okay. The second thing is you need to take the high road. Yep, I know. It's so no fun to take the high road. It's not always very fun to take the high road. It's really uncomfortable and difficult. I mean, part of you wants to be like, but everybody should know what she did, right? Everybody should know. But the thing is, if somebody's, if you're having a fight with somebody, they can always go lower. They can always go lower. And if you start that spiral of beating each other down, in the end, you are definitely not going to win. Okay. It's definitely not going to get you any more fans, and you won't win because it's just a downward spiral where it can just keep getting uglier and uglier. And in the end, you'll both lose. So it's really very selfish to take the high road in the end. And it's, protecting yourself, not selfish. It's protecting yourself to take the high road, protecting yourself from whatever consequences can happen from not taking the high road. Okay. Along with that, do not, capital N-O-T, do not publish anything on social media. Do not go on rants. Do not go be like, meh, meh, meh. Just do not, you don't even have to refer to it on social media. You don't want there to be, you don't need for there to be sides. You don't need any of that. Just recognize that there is no good that comes from having a written record of your upset. Okay. There's just no good there. And it's not in alignment with the high road. So don't post stuff about it on social media. Finally, once you've kind of released some of the anger and you're in a more calm, centered space, wherever that space is for you, and maybe you're not super calm and centered, but you're good enough. The next and most important thing that you need to do is come from a place of love and integrity for yourself. Okay, because you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. So, and you want to have integrity for yourself. You want to be able to look back at this years later and be like, I did the best I could. Because this is somebody that you've loved. This is somebody that you've had a relationship with, and you don't necessarily want to dishonor what came before by sabotaging it and yourself now. And so, and you can try and fix it later, but I have had, I've done this quite a bit recently, more than I've wanted to. But what I always do is I ask myself two questions. And first, I ask myself, what is the most loving thing for me? And sometimes I need to get help from other people with this question because when you're in the middle of it, it's really hard to be objective. But I spend some time, that's part of what I do in the 24 to 48 hours or just after, is what's the most loving thing for me? because you need to prioritize yourself. Like if you don't put yourself first, if you don't ask this question first, then there's a bitterness that can come and kind of subconsciously, get that bitter energy through whatever next choices that you make. So first prioritize what is the most loving thing for you to do. And sometimes that's like ending this relationship. Or sometimes that just means minimizing the time spent with that person. Or sometimes, usually it means setting some kind of boundaries. But what is the most loving boundary for you? What is the one that will help you thrive and prosper for whatever that you need to do next on your journey to becoming a successful indie author? Okay. So ask yourself that question first. What is the most loving for me to do? And then you need to think about this other person who may have really hurt you or may not, but usually in this case, there is some kind of discord. Then you need to ask yourself, what is the most loving thing for them? Because again, you can't control other people. You can only control yourself. And so when you look back on this on this years later, you want to be like, I did the best I could. And that means loving yourself and loving them as much as you can. And sometimes the most loving thing for them comes after you, because you need to make sure you're okay. But after that, you can be like, okay, within these boundaries that I've now created for myself, what is the most loving thing I could do for that person? And sometimes, again, that just means letting them go. Sometimes that means, that's why another reason to take the high road. Oftentimes it shows up as growing in different directions, and you can lovingly let them go and still support them in whatever their new direction is. You can be like, hey, I'm happy for you. Good luck. This is how we wish all our breakups would go, right? Like we both were like, yeah, what's the most loving thing I can do for myself and then for you? And then be like, hey, I'm happy for you. I support you. Good luck. I don't have to be there with you, but I wish you the best. And I want to take a moment, just say regardless of whether you're having a change in relationships and whether it's private or public, I do recommend doing that, wishing them the best and hoping for the best for them and honoring whatever time and energy and love that you've had in that relationship, honoring that by wishing them the best, but also allowing yourself to let them go if that is what's most loving for you. And letting them go, to me, means not giving them your energy, right? It's not, sometimes it actually shows up as like, hey, we're not in each other's lives anymore. Like sometimes that's how it shows up. But sometimes they're already not a huge part of your life, but maybe they're getting a lot of your energy even so. Like I have this with one of my parents where they're not a huge part of my life, but they have at times taken a lot of my energy, even though I don't see them or talk to them very often. And so what I mean when I say letting them go is I mean energetically letting them go, in that they don't get your energy anymore. Like you aren't taking your energy from what's important to you in your dreams. You're not taking your energy from your writing. You're not taking your energy from your marketing and giving it to that person anymore. Which doesn't mean you have to cut them out of your life. It's just you're not giving them that energy anymore. Yeah. And that's really powerful. Instead, you're putting all that energy into becoming your best self. And your better self and best self can be more generous with people because you're not bitter and resentful, because you're giving that energy to you. And what this looks like, you guys, I have notes. What this can look like is because when you're letting it go energetically, it means that you aren't necessarily closing the door. Then, because that's like an analogy that's very common, is you can leave a door open. And when I was thinking about this, I didn't really like that analogy, because I'm like, well, I don't really want the door to be open like that, because again, I don't want to give them that energy. And having an open door means that I can't be like I don't feel safe with an open door. Nobody does. Or I don't mean that nobody does, but like it's not locked, it's not closed. There's not a full safety there. It doesn't feel secure. And this whole thing is about boundaries and prioritizing yourself. So here's a better analogy in my mind. Okay. So you're on this journey and you're driving the bus. You're driving the bus. And some people on, the bus of your life, some people are there for the whole ride. Like maybe your sister. Wink, wink. Wink, wink, sister. I love you. Maybe your sister's there for the whole ride, or maybe one of your parents or somebody is there for the whole entire ride, and they're there on your life journey and they're not going anywhere. But other times people just come onto the bus and then they come off the bus, or maybe they join the bus later in the journey and then they stay for the rest. Or maybe they were there for the beginning of the journey and then they got off. Okay, so you've got the bus. And here's the thing. Here's the way I like to think about some of these relationships. When I say letting it go, it means you invite them to get off the bus. Okay, so they aren't on the journey with you at that point, but you can save them a seat. Like they have a seat that's available if they want to get back on the bus. But if they want to get back on the bus, they have to meet you at where the bus is going, not where the bus has been. So they'll have to meet you there. So if you've if you've traveled for a few years in the interim, then they have to meet you at wherever you're at, but they still have a spot. They still have a spot on the bus. So if they can meet you, they get to be back on the bus. And I've done this I just came up with this analogy, but I'm like, I love it because I've done this for a number of people. There are a number of seats on my bus that nobody is sitting in, but they're reserved just in case. And because I love those people, I still really love them, but they aren't with me on this part of the journey. And that happens. Like this is a thing that happens as you are growing and up-leveling and becoming your best self. There will be people that join you for the whole ride, and there will be people who can't for the whole time. And it can be really sad, but you don't have to get rid of their spot on the bus. Some people you will. Some people you're like, you are never getting on this bus again. And that's fine as well. But some people you just want to be like, I don't want to leave them forever. But here's some good news. Good news. Next thing. Guaranteed, when you open up space in your life and you let some of these relationships that are not serving you, when you let them go, you open up a space for people who match you in this new energy that you have, okay? In the new energy and intention and goals. Okay, so recently we had a little bit of upset at Author Like a Boss, and it's, it was and still is very sad. And I really miss some of the people and care about them, love them. But in the same time period as this happened, I'd signed up for a coaching program. I met a whole bunch of really powerful, amazing women. I've continued to interview people for the podcast that I'm like, ooh, we are so in sync. We're coming up with ideas together and creating new things. And so when you let people go with love and integrity for yourself and for them as much as possible and wishing them the best, but you still let them go to whatever their journey is that you are not responsible for, then you get to let new people in, new people who are matching the energy that you are creating in your life currently, because you are up-leveling your vibration, your energy, yourself. And there are people that match that. And it's so fun to meet those people. So like I said, with my friend Kate and that group of Star Trek friends. Okay. So I joined the Muay Thai gym, started making new friends. And I'll tell you, like, if you can find a very specific hobby that you like to do where there's not that many women who would want to do that, like, not every woman wants to do Muay Thai. So I'll tell you, it's a really good way to find friends, because it's like only a certain type of woman wants to do Muay Thai. And I found some amazing friends there, and we did all kinds of things. Like, I made new friends. I made new amazing friends. And we would do stuff like we went to a honey and wine tasting at a vineyard where there was a honey guy. I don't know what we call him, a beekeeper, honey guy. And he had all these different kinds of honey. He had so we did wine tasting, and the sommelier, whatever guy, he was French. So he's actually like, like in Beauty and the Beast. That's my French reference, you guys. And then the beekeeper, we did this honey tasting, and he had pomegranate honey and avocado honey and all these different kinds of really delicious honeys. And we drove out and we did that, had an amazing trip together doing that. We had wine and chocolate parties because I'd invite all my girlfriends over, and we'd eat chocolate and drink wine and giggle. And then some of my bestest friends, we did a traveling red dress photos. I don't know if you guys remember the blogess quite a few years ago at this point had this traveling red dress. And so I bought a red dress, and we had this traveling red dress photo shoot, and we all got our pictures taken and felt really beautiful. Like, we had these amazing experiences because our energies matched. And we were all down for doing some of that stuff. So the good thing about letting people go is that you open up a space for new people who match you. And again, remember, you can save that seat on the bus. You can save that seat on the bus if they want to come back. But it's okay to prioritize yourself. It's okay to prioritize your goals. It's okay to do what is best for you. Okay, this is a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. So, but it's something I've really, really been dealing with, you guys. And so I wanted to share and let you know, that's a real thing that happens when you are making changes in your life. It's not always easy. Okay. I've done this quite a few times now, but it doesn't get easier each time. Because I still have the mourning, I still have the sadness, I still have the people that I care about that I don't get to talk to anymore. But I am more familiar with the process. The process isn't as difficult, even though the feelings are. The process isn't as difficult because I've done it a few times now, and I recognize what's going to happen, and it's easier for me to give, to be generous and give with love because I've practiced prioritizing myself. But if you are having this kind of situation, it is not easy, and you're struggling, I have to say, you cannot let it stop you. Okay, you can't let it stop you because you and your dreams are too important to give up on. However, if you'd like some help, because again, it's not easy. If you'd like some help, or maybe you want to start finding some of those new friends right away, This is something that I have actually built into the Author Like a Boss model. I've built into this because I know it will happen. I've built in the support to navigate these kind of challenges that happen when you are making changes like this. So if you want to find out about the Author Like a Boss model, if you want to learn more about this Author Like a Boss model that I'm talking about, okay, you can come to the Author Like a Boss Masterclass. It's how to become an empowered six-figure indie author, okay? And the empowered part is kind of the part where you're setting those boundaries, you're putting yourself first, and being as generous and loving as possible at the same time. And you can sign up for the next masterclass at authorlikeaboss.com/ALAB masterclass. And the link is in the description or the show notes. You can go find that link if you're listening now and you don't want to remember it or whatever, you can go find the link. It's ALAB Masterclass. The link is in the description. And we'll give you all kinds of help and love around this very challenging but real part of becoming your best self for you and your writing. Okay. Thank you guys so much. This ended up being way longer than I thought it was. So if you're still around, big, big hugs for you. I'm sending you many, many loves and hugs. Again, hugs and happy authoring here at Author Like a Boss.